2 miles inside the deepest cave in the United States, a rock came loose and broke a woman's leg. She was 40 years old. She had been caving for 22 years. She was not lost, and she was not a tourist. She was there to map the place. Getting her out took more than 200 people and 4 days. Lechuguilla sits under the New Mexico desert inside Carlsbad Caverns National Park. For most of the 20th century, it was nothing much. A pit about 90 feet deep with a floor of rubble. What kept cavers coming back was the air. Wind blew up out of that rubble hard enough to feel. Wind means space. Something large was down there, and the only thing between it and the surface was the rock in the way. In 1984, a team from the Colorado Grotto got permission from the Park Service to dig. On the 25th of May, 1986, they broke through. What they walked into does not look like other caves. Lechuguilla was not carved from above by rainwater soaking down. It was eaten out from below by sulfuric acid rising off oil deposits deeper in the earth. That process leaves things ordinary caves do not have: gypsum chandeliers 20 feet long, gypsum hairs and beards, soda straws 15 feet long, balloons of hydromagnesite thin as foil. The Park Service closed it almost immediately. No tours, no visitors, no exceptions. Entry only for survey and science, and only for people who could be trusted to move through it without touching anything. Emily Davis Mobley was one of those people. On the 1st of April, 1991, she was about 2 miles in and 1,000 feet down on a mapping trip. At around 6 in the morning, she was climbing when a boulder came loose above her. It weighed somewhere between 80 and 100 pounds. She fell 12 feet. The rock came down on her left leg, below the knee, and broke her tibia. Now picture where that leaves you. Lechuguilla is 565 feet deep. At the time, 54 miles of it had been mapped, and nobody knew where it ended. Between Mobley and the entrance was a boulder-choked zone the surveyors call the Rift, a 40-foot gap called the Freakout Traverse, a slope of crumbling gypsum called Glacier Bay, and a 250-foot climb they had named the Great White Way. Those names were not invented for a rescue. They were invented by cavers describing what it was like to get through them uninjured, carrying nothing but their own gear. Whatever you are picturing, none of it is flat and none of it is walking. 1,000 feet down is not a distance you cover, it is a distance you climb. Word went up to the surface, and the call went out across the American caving community. Rick Bridges, who ran the Lechuguilla Cave project, coordinated it. Dennis Curry came from the Hamilton County Cave Rescue Team in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Mark Rossbrook came. A doctor went underground and stayed with her. More than 100 cavers went in. Around another 100 local, state and federal personnel worked the surface. And they were solving 2 problems at once, because the second problem was the cave itself. You cannot drag a stretcher through 20-foot gypsum chandeliers. Anything you break down there does not grow back, not in your lifetime, not in 1,000 of them. And you cannot simply widen the route. In an ordinary rescue, you take a hammer to whatever is in the way. Here, the thing in the way was the reason anyone was allowed in at all. So the rescue was planned twice, once for how to move her, once for what not to destroy while moving her. Routes were picked, and methods were picked to hold the damage as near to nothing as they could manage. Mobley said afterwards that she noticed, and that it mattered to her. She was not carried the whole way. Where there was room, she hobbled. Where there was not, she went in a stretcher, passed hand to hand. At the chasms, they rigged ropes and pulleys and moved her across the gaps. One of them dropped 100 feet onto rock. The Great White Way alone, that 250-foot slope, took most of a Tuesday. She was underground for 4 days, 91 hours from the moment The rock fell to the moment she reached the surface. If you have ever waited out a bad night, stretch it across 4 of them, in the dark, on a stretcher, being lifted by strangers. That was the 5th of April, 1991. Surgery followed at Guadalupe Medical Center. A bone graft, 2 screws and a bolt. The operation to bring her out had cost around $110,000. Asked about it afterwards, she said she had never been worried that she wasn't going to get out. Then she went back to caving. What Lechuguilla proved was not that an injured caver can be reached. Other rescues had already shown that and shown what it costs. It proved something narrower and stranger, that a rescue can be run under a second constraint, one that has nothing to do with the patient, and still work. 200 people moved an injured woman 2 miles through the most fragile cave in North America over 4 days, and the cave came through it intact. Both things were true at the end of it. Neither was traded for the other. Lechuguilla has since been mapped past 150 miles. It is the 8th longest cave in the world. It is still closed. It is still entered only by people who can be trusted not to touch anything. Emily Davis Mobley was one of them before the rock fell. She was one of them afterwards.